here's a fun little shootout we're doing. I'm gonna call it Triples Play. Tom might have a different idea, but it's about 3-cylinder engines. We've loved them since Triumph gave it a new birth in the modern day era in the early 90s, first with a speed triple and then a 675 street triple. After 2 decades of dominance, we now got a few other OEMs joining the 3-cylinder fray, including an MV Agusta and now a Yamaha, the FZ-09. So this isn't so much an apples to apples shootout, it's more of a state of play in regards to the various characteristics of different 3-cylinder sporty roadster bikes. As a group, we've fallen in love with 3-cylinder power plants, love their broad power bands and their musical howling exhaust notes, and they're easy to package, making the bike more compact. Tom, fill us in on some more details here.
Sure, Kev. I think what you're referring to is the 4/3 shootout. 4 bikes, all 3 cylinders. Makes a lot of sense. So the bikes that we have assembled here today represent kind of the spectrum of what's available in 3-cylinder machinery. We have the Triumph 675R, we have the MV Agusta Brutale 800, the Yamaha FZ-09, which is closer to 850cc, and then the Speed Triple R, which is a 1050cc. They also kind of represent what's available in the price range. Yamaha, so far is kind of changing the scene with its $8,000 FZ-09, which we'll get into later, is going to be a surprisingly good motorcycle for the price. Triumph on the 675 follows up next. You can get the standard model, which is about $600 less than this guy, but it's about $2,000 more than the Yamaha in the R version. $600, we say buy the R. No really second thought about it. The Brutale comes in third expensive at about $12,500. Now they have one at $12,000 without the electronic assist shifting, but this one does have that, so it is $12,500. And kind of the surprise guy here, we were really wanting to get a standard model speed triple, but we got the Speed Triple R, and this guy retails at $16,000. It's about $3,200 less for the standard model, so $600 between the standard and the R on the 675, $3,200 on this guy. So far, we haven't found much reason why to spend that much more money on this bike, but again, we'll get into that later. For right now, this is what we're stuck with, so this is what we're going to evaluate. And pretty soon, I think after we're done here, Kev, we're going to go for a ride. The guys behind us, where are we heading?
Yeah, well, we're out here in Glendora, Sousa area, but the FZ-09 is the new kid on the block. Also standing beside the FZ-09 is our new kid on the block, Evans Brassfield. Joining our crew, first time on video, so be kind to him in the comment section.
Since I first rode the Speed Triple more years ago than I care to admit to, I've loved it. I've always thought it was a great bike. I love the sound of the engine, the power delivery, everything about it just rubbed me the right way. And seeing how much the class of triples has grown so much, you could say we have a quartet of triples, perhaps. I can't wait to get out and see what they all have to offer.
So yeah, I pretty much echo what Evans and the other guys have said so far too. I love 3-cylinder motorcycles. I mean, I love twins too, but what's better than twins? Triplets. So that's going to be a really fun part of this test. And we've rambled on and on about how cool and fun the Speed and Street Triple are. So to see an entry from Yamaha and this gorgeous entry from MV, I think this test, I think maybe over all of our tests, will be one of the most fun we've done in a long time.
All right, guys, enough talking. Let's get on these things and do some more riding. All right, our playing with triples shootout sure has been fun because these bikes are all a blast to ride. Got our favorites out in front though. The Street Triple R is super rider friendly, playful as a puppy, and yet really high levels of performance. Meanwhile, the Yamaha does everything great and it's so cheap, only $8,000. However, its suspension isn't up to snuff and its ride-by-wire throttle, we wish it could be retuned. Tom, how do you see these things shaking up?
This is a great motorcycle for $8,000. It's going to be hard to beat. I mean, 2 big things is squeaky suspension. You got 3 rider modes, 2 of which don't work. So these are basically 1 rider mode. But those things are changeable. Suspension you could, spend a little money on, put a little bit flatter bar. We like the riding position on this thing. It's got the most leg room, but it's you're bolt upright. And I think for as sporty as the engine is on this thing, a little flatter bar, more aggressive, it will still keep the comfort and it'll give you a lot more performance in the canyons. And
But
you know,
it's a tubular handlebar, so you can swap that out pretty easy.
Yeah.
And I'd be surprised if Yamaha didn't have a new map to download to the ECU sometime soon.
I'm sure they're going to be working on it. And speaking of maps, you know, we've said this before or reiterated it every time we've done a shootout that has an MV Agusta. We've got the Brutale here. They've made some upgrades to the fuel mapping on it, but we find that it's still not quite there.
No, it doesn't feel like your right wrist is directly connected. There's a computer in between you, and it's kind of spoils the experience. You're not quite sure what it's going to deliver. Evans, that's your first time on the Brutale. What do you think of that?
I agree that there's not a direct link from your wrist to the engine. I mean, sometimes you roll on the throttle and it just hits you with a hammer. Other times you roll on the throttle, it's whoa, and so you really, every time you roll it on, especially when you lean over the corner, you're not quite sure what you're going to get from it.
Yeah, but beautiful motorcycle. It handles really well. It turns nearly as quick as the great little street triple. And then kind of an odd outlier in this group, surprisingly, is the speed triple. And we found it kind of feels like a big bike in this group of smaller bikes. Maybe that's too obvious, but it really didn't shine the way we've loved the speed triple in the past.
Well, if I may, Kev, it is a big bike. We got a wet weight of 471 pounds. These other three are all right around 412 or so. I mean, so you're talking a 60-pound difference, and you can feel that in every corner. And basically, you just feel the age of that bike. It's the oldest model in the lineup here, and it needs a makeover. We love it, but I'm sure Troy can, you know, give us a little bit more.
For sure, the Speed Triple is the oldest and the fattest bike here, but I think it carries its weight well, and this bike has aged very gracefully throughout the years. We all love the engine. I mean, torqued for days. And, you know, it takes a different riding style than the other three, but once you acclimate to the weight, you know, I could go pretty hard around here too. It really benefits from the flowy kind of turns here, the tight stuff. Yeah, you really feel the weight there, but you know, I guess I don't feel as strongly negatively with the Speed Triple as maybe you do, Tom, with it and how much you love these other bikes. So there's definitely ups and downs to all three of these. The Yamaha, great value for the price.
Yeah, well, if somebody's going to do long distances, I agree. The Speed Triple would be a great bike for that. It's got by far the best seat. It's a pretty comfortable riding position. The Olin suspension is taut and yet quite compliant. So there's good things to be said about the Speed too.
But of course, its biggest downfall here is the price. We're touching what, 16 grand?
Or 12.8 for the non-R.
Or 12.8 for the non-R. I mean, that's steep no matter how you slice it.
Well, even at that price, our Brutale MV over here comes in at 12.5, and that's with electronic assist shift and traction control, and it's just MV cool. I mean, it's a beautiful bike, single-sided arm, you know, $300 less than this aged old Speed 3.
Yeah, but the MV requires its rider, or like it really begs its rider to ride at 9/10 or higher, because if not, it's just kind of a punishing motorcycle. It really likes to rev and likes to just go fast, otherwise it's kind of like, what's the point?
The point is, though, between these two bikes, it comes down to a matter of a couple $1,000s. 8 grand here, 10 grand over here. You can get the lesser standard model 675, but really you're talking a $600 price difference. And for that,
Go for the better suspension and the better brake.
exactly. If you want to actually save the money, go with the Yamaha.
Oh, what you're saying is the choice is between the refined one, the one that's finished, and the one that has the room to grow. So it depends on what type of person you are. If you want it to be out of the box, set up perfectly for you, go with this. If you like to tinker and add and subtract and stuff like that, then the FZ-09 would be it.
And one other factor I think is important is the FZ-09 motor is incredible, and next to the 675, we love this motor, but this feels kind of underpowered up here at elevation, whereas the Yamaha always feels fast. It's like, it's hard to imagine somebody needing more motor than that out of a street bike.
It's crazy to think that earlier today, when we started this whole shootout, we said this is not an apples to apples comparison, and yet we're talking about these bikes as if it is an apples to apples comparison. That's how good these two bikes in the middle are. They perform above their weight to a point that we can actually, in our minds, kind of give it that apples to apples type of comparison.
Well, as the sun dips below the horizon, we're going to make this a wrap. As always, there's going to be far more details on the 4 bikes here And make sure to go to Motorcycle.com and read that story. Anything else, Kev?
Yeah, well, one thing we can say is that if we weren't fans of triples before, which we actually were, we're really fans of them now. Hearing these things wailing off the canyon walls, just a sweet motor and tons of power, a large power band. It's hard to go wrong with any of these bikes.